Hi there. I'm Julia here from Unthinkable, and this evening I am very pleased to be able to chat with Fire Commissioner Christopher Gioia, all the way in New York via Skype. Hi, Commissioner. How are you?
Hello, Julia. I'm doing very well, and yourself?
Good, good. Enjoying the cooler weather here. Thank you. Before we get started, I'd just like to read a brief intro. So, in case people don't know who you are, I'll tell them. Fire Commissioner Christopher Gioia is a 30-year member of the Franklin Square and Munson Fire District, where he served as chief from 2007 till 2012. He's also a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. Additionally, Commissioner Gioia has 25 years of experience as an EMT, and today he works as a construction surveyor with Operating Engineers Local 15 in the heavy construction industry in New York City. Commissioner Gioia was one of the thousands of heroes who responded after the collapse of the Twin Towers on September 11th, 2001, working at Ground Zero for a few months. So here today, Commissioner Gioia and I are going to talk about issues surrounding 9/11 truth and justice, and I'm just hoping to pick your brain a little bit more, Commissioner.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. Did I get that right? Did I leave anything out?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything.
Okay. So I have just a few basic questions for you. Before I get started, I just want to give people a little bit of the backstory, just very briefly. Very surprised. I had never heard of this, and I had been looking around at the 9/11 truth stuff for some years. It struck me when I heard that you were from Franklin Square because I grew up very nearby there and have spent tons of time in the town. And it just felt so close to home, even though I live in Washington State now. And so that I just have to say, for the record, was a huge pivotal moment in my coming out to 9/11 truth and beginning with this work because I was so impressed that one person um, from the fire department finally had the courage to stand up and speak out about what really happened that day. And so I'm just so grateful and like proud that it's like someone else from Nassau County, New York, that like really cares, and did a courageous thing. You wrote you wrote that resolution. Well, you helped write the resolution. So thank you. I'm gonna stop talking and ask you questions now.
Okay.
All right. So what was the first moment you remember encountering 9/11 truth or something counter to the official narrative?
I would say that just the collapses of the buildings never really sat right with me, and I didn't really pay it that much mind um, for years because there was too much going on. The country went to war, and all kinds of things were going on, and just was busy at work, and I was just talking with my friends because on the we're working, and one of my friends had showed me a video of Building 7 coming down close up, and
Hmm.
it never really dawned on me to look at that. Nobody
Right.
paid attention to Building 7. It wasn't on the radar. You didn't think twice about it because it wasn't really the media never really spoke about it. It was just one of these missing buildings. Nobody paid attention to it. And then I was like, well, what building was that? And he was like, that's Building 7. And that I just looked at that and I was like, wow, you know, that that's a controlled demolition. And there's no way that anybody's going to tell me different.
Right.
So that set me off because I spent a lot of time researching as much as I could online about that building, and that just led to other things. So that was that was the moment that after 10 years of believing the official narrative that the light went off, and that really got me going. And the more I found, the sicker I got. I really got like sick to my stomach, and I just couldn't believe it. And it caused a conflict with me, because you don't want to believe that something like that could happen, and then you find out that it's not the way they said it happened. It was, and that causes a tremendous conflict in people, and that was something that had to be overcome. And then so that set me on the path.
Wow. Since you had been at Ground Zero for some time after, not on 9/11, but like looking back at that time, like now knowing what we know, like does it change how you think about it or feel about like having been there and the work that was being done?
No, not at all. Not at all. When I had gone down there, everybody was in a state of shock, and
You can imagine.
you're in a state of shock. You are, and when you get there, I went the following day, and I went at night, and we went in at night, and it was something that you're not mentally prepared for. You're just not prepared to see that kind of devastation in Lower Manhattan in New York City. And it was very quiet except for the sound of the heavy equipment, digging, and it wasn't real. It really wasn't real. But we were there to do a job, and that's what the focus was. And you were in shock, so it was crazy.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service there. It's you guys all put your lives at risk by working at Ground Zero. Way of risking your life. So it's just amazing. So, what do you think happened on 9/11 that you're willing to say? And I'm not going to hold you to it or nail you to the wall over it. I just, I'm just kind of curious about what's your.
My opinion now, after 19 years and digging into it, trying to get to the truth, based on what information that I've gotten, and there's a lot of misinformation, and there's a lot of nonsense out there. So you have to be very careful how you research 9/11, and you have to separate, uh, try and separate the truth from the lies and the misinformation. So after looking at this, I've come to the conclusion that elements inside I believe that elements inside the United States government, the Pentagon, and elected officials very high up. 9/11 was I would call it a false flag, and that's based on evidence of a plan called Operation Northwoods, which people can research. That
Yes.
that was if you read Operation Northwoods,
I've read the whole thing.
9/11 is right there, and what they did is the Pentagon just took this plan off the shelf and updated it, and 9/11 you could just substitute it.
Except with Cubans then at the time.
Yeah, it was a plan to set up Cuba,
Mhm.
for an invasion, and it involved aircraft and attacking and killing Americans and generating public support for an invasion of Cuba.
Yeah, and like not just killing Americans, but like staging attacks near military bases and or on the base where soldiers would be killed inadvertently, or like obviously. Northwoods is very disturbing. Thank you for bringing that up. I
Yeah,
remember I couldn't even read that whole thing through. But
it was a very disturbing piece of information that, how could the government, especially the top leaders in the Pentagon, then you're talking about the Joint Chiefs of Staff,
right,
have this plan that involved they were discussing killing Americans to drum up support for an invasion of a foreign nation. And that was back in the 60s, 1960s. So that's
yeah,
50 years ago that they had this plan.
that was March 1962, and at
So
least James
that
didn't
was,
let them go ahead with it.
yeah. No, Kennedy didn't, and he actually had the head of the Joint Chiefs transferred to Europe, a gentleman by the name of General Limnitzer. So he took him
Super
out of the picture, and
interesting.
then, of course, the following year, President Kennedy was assassinated.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I would say our government's pretty corrupt. I would have to agree with you there. I couldn't believe the Northwoods thing, but before I get too far off into a rabbit hole, I will ask you my next question, which is now, 19 years later, what is your vision for truth and justice? Like, okay, Christopher Joy can write the playbook and write the chapters of whatever comes from now forward. What do you want to see, and what do you think is like realistic or maybe not?
Julia, that's a tough call. The way to proceed is with what the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 inquiry is doing, and they are filing petitions to get grand jury investigations, federal grand jury investigations, and that is the way to proceed because we have to follow the rule of law. We have to follow the way the system has been set up. The system is good. Just because there are some bad people in the system doesn't mean the whole system is bad. It's not. Our country is a good country, and there are some bad people in it. Nobody's kidding anybody here. It's not all good. And you have bad people in the government, you have bad people in the Pentagon. And it seems to me that, they had the right time, they had this plan, they spent a long time. It was 9/11 was such a complicated plot that it was planned for many years. And they it just happened that all of these players were in the right place at the right time, and they decided that they were going to go ahead with it.
So I want to follow up that
Okay.
it, and I'm going to give you my next question into it. So I come from a slightly different generation as you, and the way we do things and think about things might be different. Like, for example, I don't know, do you have ideas? Do you think my generation has a role in this they don't realize yet? Because most folks that I know in the movement are more of your generation. Um, it's pretty much like all old white guys. So I'm constantly trying to like figure out how to get different people in, and most of the people in my generation are like, I don't know, oblivious, or they don't care, or they like everybody's just too busy with their own stuff to care about like a bigger issue, or maybe I just don't know the right people.
I
Let me
think
ask you, the question is like, what would you want like my generation and the younger generations to do like differently with this? Um, like, do you think social media is like, what do you think we should do with that? Any ideas you have?
Julia, I think what you're doing is very important with your unthinkable website. I think that your generation can do a lot that they don't have to believe what they've been told. And I think your generation probably realizes that mainstream media isn't telling the truth. That there's a they have an agenda that people need to use their brains more and just not be so
Right.
accepting
I
of
agree.
yeah of what other people said. I recently just put out a post with regard to some 9/11 truth, and growing up, people always said that if your friends told you to jump off a bridge, would you follow them? Of course not. So you have to think. And your generation, 9/11, the official, it's exactly what you said. The official narrative, okay, is not true, and it's a myth. It really is, because it's not based on
Yep.
facts. It's just pretty much the government. Um, they came up with the narrative, and then they tried to just imagine, or they invented not even facts. They just came out with this commission report, but it's not based in reality or facts. So we have to dispel the myth. Your generation, along with my generation, has been dispelling the myths by exposing, or actually proving factually, that these statements that were made are incorrect. And that you have scientists, you have architects, you have engineers, you have many people across the spectrum out there who are just systematically dismantling the myth about the narrative, the official narrative. And what you said in Unthinkable is so true, about the 9/11 narrative.
I like how you called it a myth. I always think about David Ray Griffin. He says, a myth in the pejorative sense. Like,
Yes,
it's a lie. It's
it
made
is.
up.
It
It's
is.
fiction.
And
Um,
it's not going to hold up because it's not true. It's all lies, and it's just coming apart because for the first 10 or 15 years, the country was brought down this path, a dark path. We got involved in these wars, and that the generals over at the Pentagon, all these war plans were laid out before 9/11, and they said that they were going to take out all of these countries beforehand, and they just went in, and they needed an excuse to do it, and they started doing it. So now, once so now the whole country, is their focus has been shifted, just like with the COVID. Our focus has been shifted away from everything else. So everybody's busy watching, they're not watching the store, and who's in, people are in the store robbing the place. But other people now are paying attention, and they're like, wait a minute, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. So we're getting to the facts, and disproving every little piece that could be looked at and disproven, and just knocking them down like that. And it's
you
being
reminded
done.
me of something.
Lawyers are good at that. I'm sorry.
No, no, go
Architects and
ahead.
engineers are good at that. They've been doing that. They've been documenting everything, and they've been bringing all the experts on board. And the government, the commission report, NIST report. That's why NIST has to turn around and say, well, we can't tell you how we came to these conclusions.
Right.
That they're backed into a corner, and it's like, well, if we tell you how we came to our calculations, then other people will know how to bring a building down.
Right. But it really is something about, like, I think they declined a FOIA request for saying that it would, like, jeopardize public safety or
It would
something.
jeopardize public safety.
It's like, what? That literally makes zero sense. Like, it's like brainwashing.
It absolutely makes no sense, because here we are, we're trying to figure out why the building came down, and now they're turning around and saying, well, we can't tell you why the building came down. It's laughable,
I know.
but
It's
it's
true.
crazy to think about that. Another thing, that there's civil lawsuits, and a lot of people don't know this. There are civil lawsuits by the victims' families that have actually gone ahead, and the government and the Department of Justice is trying to deny them as well. And they turn around, and the information that the family members are looking for, the government actually told them, well, we can't tell you that because of state secrets. State secrets? Because Saudi Arabia is involved. Well, whose state secrets are we talking about? The government is hiding state secrets, what, for a foreign country over the
Yes.
needs of family members? You're talking about the victims' family members of 9/11. What, hey, guys, listen, if you're saying that 19 uh, terrorists from Saudi Arabia, right, flew planes into buildings and killed everybody, and now you're not going to talk about it, right? Come on, something's up.
We know it because it was like what accidentally declassified, where the link to Saudi Arabia was like really set in stone, and that just
They
came out
declassified. They slipped up and they released 2 or 3 names of Saudi consulate officials that were never released before. High level Saudi officials who worked in an embassy, who harbored actually 2 of the hijackers out in California, San Diego, and that was never released before. So now, what has also happened, I know I had it, but just recently, within the past month, a federal judge ruled in favor of the families, saying that these Saudi officials could be deposed and that they could get statements from them. And the judge actually said, you know what, I'm going to side with the family members on this one. And I think it was close to the anniversary of 9/11. So and for a federal judge to go against the DOJ and the FBI, because the DOJ and the FBI was trying to squash this.
Yeah.
And it was they said it was unprecedented that the federal judge did this. So I think the mindset, here it is, we're almost 20 years out. The mindset of people in government now, they're so far removed from it that the people who actually committed this don't have that kind of power anymore. And now's an opportunity for us to really expose this and to try and get truth and justice for the people that were killed and murdered.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, and you're right. I mean, any legal recourse that we can take, we should. And I hope that we can keep spreading the awareness online now that we live in like a virtual world, thanks to COVID. So I have another question for you, and then I don't know if you have questions for me or if you have other things you want to talk about or talk more about Justice for 9/11 Heroes, anything you want to do. This question is kind of a weird one. You're sitting on the LIRR next to a stranger, and you have 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, to talk to them about 9/11 truth, and they're receptive, but they really don't have a clue how much they've been brainwashed. So what do you think you would say? I don't know what I would say, and so I ask the leaders, what would you say?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would tell them 9/11. You can't believe. I'm not going to tell. I would say this. I'm not going to tell you what to believe about 9/11. Okay, if you want to go down that path, do your own research and come to your own conclusions. I'm not going to, I have my own opinion as to, what happened and why. But if you're interested in the truth, I would say go to the Architects and Engineers website and go to the Lawyers Committee website for a start. And then there are other websites out there. I said there's a lot of there's a lot of misinformation. Stay away from that. There's a lot of crazy theories. Stay away from that, and just stick with what can be proved. Stick with the facts. All right, it's very basic. Okay, this is it. People make more out of it than it really is. Okay, what we're talking was a mass murder. Okay, it was something that was done for profit. This had nothing to do with religion. Not even politics. It's all about money. It all boils down to money. The military industrial complex needed a place to play for the next 20 years. So what do? We get involved in this endless war against this faceless, nameless enemy, right? Al Qaeda. If it's not Al Qaeda, it's ISIS. If it's not ISIS, what's it gonna be next year? Was it gonna be the Girl Scouts? You know, we're gonna be chasing terrorists all over
Oh
the
my
globe.
goodness.
You know, I know that sounds, it sounds crazy, but it's true. Who are these people, and why are we chasing them? Why are we getting involved in countries, halfway across the world when we should be taking care of ourselves here at home? For what? And going after people had nothing to do with 9/11. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. President Bush said it had nothing to do with 9/11. The House Intelligence Committee said they had nothing to do with 9/11. Who do we attack? We attack Iraq and Saddam Hussein. Do we go after the Saudis, the guys who were allegedly flying the planes? No, of course not. We don't attack Saudi Arabia. And who are we protecting after all of these years? We're protecting these people. So I would say there's questions that need to be answered, and for people to just do their own research and look it up for themselves, see for themselves. I can only try and point you in the right direction. There's some excellent websites out there, and there's a lot of good people out there who want to get to the truth, such as yourself, Richard Gage, David Meiswinkle from the Lawyers Committee. These are just to name a few, but there are plenty out there. But these are the major players, and with the it should be a legal initiative. Everything needs to be documented. It needs to be, I believe in our court system. This needs to be, 9/11 has never been brought into a court of law. And that's something your generation needs to understand. 9/11 has never been brought into a court of law. The evidence has never been looked at, never been presented to a jury, and it needs to be presented to a jury. And if it merits further investigation, or if they feel that there's something there, then they could rule on it, and we could pursue that. But and then for the people out there who want to believe the official narrative, okay, fine, I get it, and I respect their opinions. All right, and if the evidence doesn't amount to a hill of beans, then you know what? It goes away and it's done. But we have done our due diligence to the people that were killed, right? By bringing it to the highest court in the land and letting other people look at it and judging the evidence on its merits. And that's what I'd like to see. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not engaging in conspiracy theories, and I'm not pointing fingers. All I'm saying is, you know what? Take whatever's left of the evidence, bring it into court, have the jury look at it, and let's go from there.
Do people give you a hard time about being a conspiracy theorist, or like, do you
All the
get
time?
that? Really?
All the time. Yeah. There's pushback, and I think people who really know me know that that my intentions are good. I don't want to stir up a lot of bad feelings or bad memories, but I tell people, you know what? I remind them, especially in the firehouse, there's an empty gear rack over there that belonged to Tommy Hetzel. Okay, and you know what? I'm going to keep fighting for him because his voice hasn't been heard. He was silenced. He was murdered. Okay, and until we get his voice into a court along with the other people, then it's not over. This isn't over. I want answers to my questions, and I'm not going to let people stop me because they're saying, oh, we can't talk about this. Of course we can talk about this. This is something that needs to be talked about. This is far from over.
I couldn't have said that much better myself. I think you would have convinced me and whoever else was in the train car. But we live in a little bubble where, like, I get it and you get it, and thousands, tens of thousands of other people get it.
The world is catching up. More and more people are realizing that the news outlets, the media sources, they're not really reporting the news as so much as they're manufacturing the news, and that you really have to look to find exactly what's going on. So they'll show you a little film clip or video clip of something happening, but it's taken out of context, and you don't see the whole event unfolded. Or they'll just take somebody's they're talking and they'll only take a little sound bite out of it, and they try and spin it. They're the spin doctors, and you can't judge anything by that. I take mainstream media with a grain of salt. I don't. Matter of fact, I kind of shut them out. I think that people should boycott mainstream media because they're not factual anymore. I know why they're fighting the Department of Justice, and the FBI is fighting so hard to keep this out of court. They don't want 9/11 brought into a court of law ever, because they know that once you bring in expert witnesses and you bring in the testimonies that have never been heard from the firemen and the policemen and the first responders who were at ground zero that day testifying about explosions and what they saw, and then you have the architects, the engineers, the scientists, the airline pilots, everybody else weighing in and saying, guys, buildings can't collapse like this. Building 7 wasn't hit by a plane. And I think your generation needs to understand that. Building 7 was not hit by a plane. Okay, there is no jet fuel in this building. And they said that the sprinklers didn't work. Well, guess what? The sprinklers did work because the building had city water. Okay, maybe the water lines got damaged, but they also had sprinklers. They had water tanks on the roof. So the upper floors had sprinklers that were working. And that building wasn't burning furiously or on fire. The fires had mostly gone out. And then in the afternoon, that building just collapsed for no reason. It just, fell in on itself.
Yeah.
And if you look, that's why the Building 7 isn't included in the 9/11 Commission report. The government did not talk about Building 7 for 7 years. And then NIST came out with their report. Who remembers anything after 7 years? Right? So they just wanted it to go away. They just want this whole thing to go away. And it's not going to go away because, like I said, it brought this country down. It took the country down a dark path. And we need to get back on the path. We really do. And it has to be exposed, because to me, 9/11 is like it's like a cancer in a healthy body. And unless you treat it and deal with it and remove it and, get it out of your system, it's going to attack the healthy body, and it's not good. You have to, deal with it.
Yeah.
You have to treat it.
Which is a sad and fitting analogy, considering how many 2,000 people have died from cancer from 9/11 related illness. Definitely a cancer that needs to be treated.
Yeah. So, well, like I was saying, that if 9/11 gets exposed, all right, look at all the big players that are involved here. Okay, you're talking about people who are very high up in elected office. This probably went all the way up to the office of the vice president. And you're talking about over at the Pentagon, generals, high level, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, people over at the Pentagon who had the power to make things happen that day. So what happens if 9/11 gets exposed? What are the consequences of that going to be? Because the United States used 9/11 as justification to invade foreign countries and do a lot of things. So if all of that comes out, now you're going to have lawsuits from everybody going after the government, if that ever comes to light. So that I could see why they're really trying to keep this under wraps, but you have to expose it. And you know what? Damn the consequences, because it's just such an awful thing that was done. That, you know what? You got to do it. We just have to make this right. And we're going to try and make it right. We're going to make it right.
Well, that was awesome. Damn the consequences. I think that's going to be one of my new slogans.
That's why I put my head on the chopping block. I do. Because, you know what? I'm not going to wait until I'm 90 years old and have an epiphany and try and do something about then, because I'm going to be too old. I'm going to be older than I am now. But if we don't do it now, the time is now.
Right. I feel the same way. I feel like it's urgent. The time is now.
The time is now,
And
Julia.
for me, I don't want to look back when I'm 90 and have to tell my grandkids or whatever, like, yeah, the buildings were blown up, but nobody ever really did anything about it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because the people who died that day and since and everyone affected um, deserve so much more and so much better, which is the truth. And that's what they deserve. And that's what we haven't been given.
No, we haven't. We haven't. These were my friends, and this is our country. And I do believe in my country. You know what? And I'm the kind of guy, if you're my friend, we're friends for life. And I'm not forgetting about my friends. Ever.
Wow. Well, Commissioner, we are just about out of time. Is there anything else you want to throw in there or pick my brain? I just got to pull it all out of there for a while. I appreciate it so much.
No, I want to thank you for having me on and speaking with me. I think that what you're doing with Unthinkable is fantastic. I think the message that the 9/11, the official narrative, has been invalidated is so important, because that does so much to dispel the myth. The myth of 9/11. We have to replace the myth of 9/11 with the facts of 9/11. And people like you, Richard Gage, David Meiswinkle, all these other people have done so much. Look at where the movement has gone. Now, the word is out. Social media is very important. I think that's important with your generation. So I would say, you know what? We just keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. Keep chipping away at the stone. And eventually it will happen. One person can change the world, Julia. I know. One person can. And just imagine if a group of people tried.
Right.
Right.
I needed to know there were other people. I don't think I wasn't able to really think that I could speak out by myself. And even now, it's still hard. Like, people give me tons of crap, and
the message is resonating around the world, and you're helping to do that.
If Facebook lets me stay on without banning people.
Well, there's another, I forget the name of it, but somebody had mentioned it, that they're done with Facebook. I think we're going to be done with Facebook soon because of all the censorship that's going on. And now there's another venue out there that people can go to, which is sort of like Facebook. And
there's plenty of other social media platforms.
Yeah, they don't restrict it. So I think people are going to be moving away from Facebook. What's his name? Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, you had your time, but now you're done too.
Yeah, he just needs to figure out how to censor the right things. Like, make sure there's nothing illegal going on online. And people not doing things wrong.
America is not about censorship. And I think that what's going on now, people have to, I don't know, they have to respect the other person's opinion without trying to beat them over the head, and trying to force their opinion down other people's throats. We can respectfully disagree. That's what the country is about. I support your right to say it. I may disagree with you, but you have the right to say things. And I think I don't know. I'm not seeing that. I see a lot of unhappy people out there that are trying to ram their opinions down other people's throats. And you know what? If I disagree with you, all of a sudden now I'm classified as against them, or something else. And it's like, I really don't care,
Thank you so much for chatting with me tonight. This has been an incredible dream come true, honestly. I can't believe that I've had the opportunity to interview such an important advocate leader in the movement. And I just want to say thank you and keep doing what you're doing. I won't back down. And I really, really believe in what we're doing here. So thank you. Thank you so, so much.
You're welcome, Julia. And thank you as well. And don't back down. Don't ever back down.